Ambassador Zethric adjusted his crystalline breathing apparatus as he studied the primitive bipeds across the negotiation table. The humans sat awkwardly in chairs designed for more civilized species, their crude fabric clothing a stark contrast to the elegant energy-woven garments of proper galactic citizens. Their leader, a female called Sarah Chen, smiled with her mouth full of bone-white calcium deposits that served as teeth. How barbaric! The first contact protocols had been clear. Earth's radio signals suggested a young species barely capable of splitting atoms. When the survey ships arrived, they found exactly what they expected. A backwater world with crude chemical rockets and weapons that threw metal projectiles using explosive powders. The humans had not even mastered basic energy manipulation, yet somehow they had survived their own primitive warfare long enough to develop these kinetic weapons to deadly effectiveness.Zethric's aide, a floating jellyfish-like being named Vrex, pulsed nervous colors. Ambassador, their weapon demonstrations were concerning. Indeed they were. The humans had insisted on showing their military capabilities before joining the Galactic Confederation. What they demonstrated defied all logic. Their railguns fired simple metal slugs at incredible speeds. But the truly shocking part was what happened when these projectiles hit Confederation shield technology. The energy barriers that had protected galactic civilization for over 50,000 years simply failed. The kinetic rounds passed through them like they did not exist. When questioned, the human military officer had shrugged and said something about mass and velocity being more reliable than fancy light shows. "We appreciate your offer of membership in the Confederation," Sarah Chen was saying now, her words translated by the universal communication device. "But we need to understand what this partnership means for humanity." Zethric straightened his robes and activated his vocal harmonizer. "Your species shows promise despite your technological limitations. We are prepared to offer Earth a probationary membership with full trading rights and access to our educational databases. In return, we would like to study your kinetic weapon technology." The human leader exchanged glances with her advisors. One of them, a graying male with facial hair, leaned forward. "What level of membership are we talking about? Full voting rights? Territorial protections?" "Oh no," Zethric laughed, the sound like crystal chimes. "Full membership requires mastery of at least 7 core technologies. Your species has barely achieved one, and even that is crude by galactic standards. We are offering associate status, which is quite generous for such a young civilization." The humans went quiet. Zethric could see them communicating with subtle facial expressions and body language. How primitive their methods were compared to proper telepathic or bioluminescent communication. "Ambassador," Sarah Chen said finally, "we appreciate the offer, but we have some concerns about the terms." "What concerns could you possibly have?" Vrex pulsed curious yellow patterns. "You would have access to technologies beyond your wildest dreams. Fusion power, gravity manipulation, even basic energy shields." The human leader smiled again, and something in that expression made Zethric uncomfortable. "The thing is, we have been developing our own solutions to these problems. We might not need as much help as you think." Zethric felt his confidence returning. "My dear primitive, you cannot simply skip the natural progression of technology. Every advanced species follows the same path: energy manipulation, then faster-than-light travel, then exotic matter control. You cannot jump from throwing rocks to understanding the fundamental forces of the universe." "Maybe," the graying human male said, "but we never really followed the rules anyway." The negotiations continued for several hours. The humans asked detailed questions about galactic politics, trade routes, and military structures. They seemed particularly interested in how conflicts were resolved and what technologies were considered standard for warfare. Finally, agreements were reached. Earth would become an associate member of the Galactic Confederation. They would receive access to basic educational materials and could establish trade relationships with approved species. In return, human military contractors would be available for hire by Confederation members, and their kinetic weapon technology would be shared under strict licensing agreements. As the humans prepared to leave, Zethric felt satisfied with the arrangement. Earth would provide an interesting source of crude but effective weapons, while remaining safely under Confederation oversight. The humans seemed content with their minor role in galactic affairs. "One last question," Sarah Chen said as she stood. "How often do military conflicts actually happen in the galaxy?" Oh, quite regularly, Zethric replied. Border disputes, resource conflicts, territorial expansions. Nothing major, of course. The great powers maintain stability, and most conflicts are resolved through limited engagements with energy weapons. Very civilized warfare. The human leader nodded thoughtfully. Energy weapons against energy shields. Must make for interesting tactical problems. Indeed. Warfare has become quite sophisticated over the millennia. Shield technology has advanced to the point where most conflicts are decided by who has the most efficient energy projection systems. After the humans left, Vrex pulsed worried orange. Ambassador, did you notice how interested they were in our military capabilities? Zethric waved a dismissive tentacle. Natural curiosity from a warrior species. They will learn their place soon enough. Besides, what could they possibly do? Their weapons are effective, yes, but they are still bound by the limitations of kinetic energy. They cannot even travel faster than light without our help. 3 months later, reports began filtering in from the border regions. Human mercenary units were being hired by various factions, their services in high demand. The effectiveness of their weapons against standard, galactic defenses was proving even more devastating in actual combat than in demonstrations, but these were still minor concerns for someone of Zethric's status. Humans were useful tools, nothing more. They would never be a real threat to the established order. They lacked the technological sophistication and the cultural understanding necessary to challenge the great powers. Zethric filed his final report on the human integration process, recommending continued monitoring but expressing confidence that Earth would remain a manageable asset. The primitive bipeds had found their niche as weapon suppliers and mercenaries. They should be content with that role for centuries to come. How wrong he would prove to be. General Thorek of the Hegemony Empire studied the tactical display with growing confidence. His fleet of 200 warships hung in space near the disputed mining colony of Zarian Prime, their energy shields glowing like tiny stars against the darkness. Across from them, the Confederation Defense Force seemed pathetically small. Only 30 vessels, including several of the new human mercenary ships. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the Confederation fleet includes 5 human vessels. Intelligence suggests they carry kinetic weapons. Thorek's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of amusement among his species. Kinetic weapons against our shields? They might as well throw rocks at us. Begin the attack. Standard formation. We will crush them quickly and claim the colony. The battle began as expected. Hegemony ships advanced in tight formation, their overlapping energy shields creating an almost impenetrable barrier. Confederation vessels responded with their standard energy weapons, colorful beams splashing harmlessly against the hegemony defenses. This was civilized warfare as it had been fought for millennia. Then the human ships opened fire. The first railgun rounds moved so fast they appeared as brief streaks of light. When they struck the lead hegemony vessel, something impossible happened. The energy shields, which should have absorbed and dispersed the kinetic energy, simply failed. The metal slugs punched through the barrier as if it did not exist and buried themselves deep in the ship's hull. What just happened? Thorek demanded, his confidence wavering. Sir, the humans are using solid projectiles. Our shields are not stopping them. Impossible. Our shields can stop anything. Adjust the frequency, increase power. But it made no difference. The human ships continued their devastating assault, their railguns firing continuously. Each shot found its target with mechanical precision. Hegemony vessels, protected by shields that had never failed in 1,000 years of warfare, began taking catastrophic damage. Commander Sarah Martinez watched the battle unfold from the bridge of the human vessel Determination. The hegemony ships were reacting exactly as predicted, trying to solve their shield problem instead of changing their tactics. Tactical, focus fire on their command ship, she ordered. Time to end this quickly. Aye, Captain. All railguns targeting the hegemony flagship. The concentrated fire from 5 human ships struck General Thorek's vessel simultaneously. The massive warship's shields collapsed under the impact, and the kinetic rounds tore through the hull like it was made of paper. Secondary explosions rippled across the ship as critical systems failed. On the hegemony flagship, chaos reigned. Thorek pulled himself up from the deck where the impact had thrown him. Half his bridge crew was dead or injured, and warning lights flashed throughout the ship. Damage report, he shouted. Sir, we have hull breaches on multiple decks. Main power is failing. The shield generators are offline. Thorek stared at the tactical display in horror. His fleet, which should have been invincible, was being systematically destroyed by a handful of primitive human vessels. Ships that had ruled space lanes for decades were exploding one after another. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the human command ship. Put it through." Commander Martinez's face appeared on the screen, calm and professional. "General Thorek, this is Commander Martinez of the Terran Defense Force. Your fleet is defeated. Surrender now and your remaining ships will be allowed to withdraw." "This is impossible," Thorek screamed. "Your weapons are primitive. Our shields have protected us for thousands of years." Martinez tilted her head slightly. "Your shields are designed to stop energy weapons, General. We do not use energy weapons. We use mass and velocity. Basic physics, really," the tactical officer whispered urgently in Thorek's ear. "Sir, we have lost 60% of our fleet. Our remaining ships are requesting permission to retreat." Thorek looked at the display again. In less than 20 minutes, the most advanced fleet in the Hegemony Empire had been reduced to scrap metal by 5 human ships that looked like crude metal boxes compared to his elegant vessels. "I do not understand," he said to Martinez. "How did you know our shields would fail?" The human commander smiled. "We studied your technology. Energy shields work by absorbing and redirecting energy. But a solid object with enough mass and velocity creates different problems. Your shields try to stop the energy of impact, but the object itself just keeps going. But every civilized species uses energy weapons. This is how warfare is conducted." "Maybe that is your problem," Martinez replied. "You all got so focused on making better energy weapons and better energy shields that you forgot about older solutions. Sometimes the simple answer is the best answer." The Confederation fleet was already moving to secure the mining colony. The few surviving hegemony ships began a hasty retreat, their commanders too shocked to offer further resistance. Admiral Cathera of the Confederation watched the aftermath from her flagship. The humans had achieved in minutes what should have taken hours of careful maneuvering and energy weapon exchanges. Her tactical staff was buzzing with excitement and confusion. "Admiral," her science officer reported, "we are receiving requests from 17 different Confederation members. They all want to hire human mercenary units immediately." Kithera was not surprised. Word of this battle would spread quickly through galactic communication networks. Every military force in the galaxy would want to understand how the humans had made the most advanced shields useless. "Send a message to Earth," she ordered. "Tell them we need to discuss new contracts. And get me a detailed analysis of their weapon systems." On Earth, news of the victory at Zirion Prime caused celebration in the military command centers, but in the research laboratories, scientists were already working on new projects. The galaxy had shown them its technology, and human minds were finding ways to improve on designs that other species considered perfect. Dr. Elena Vasquez looked up from her computer screen where she had been studying Confederation shield technology. "If their shields cannot handle kinetic weapons," she said to her research team, "what else might they have missed?" The question would prove to be more important than anyone realized. The galaxy had assumed that technological development followed predictable paths, but humans had never been good at following rules. And they were about to prove that assumption completely wrong. The Battle of Zirion Prime would be remembered as the moment when the galaxy learned that humanity was not just another primitive species with crude weapons. They were something much more dangerous. Innovators who refused to accept that there was only one way to solve a problem. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the newly constructed research facility on Luna, surrounded by technology that had been science fiction just 2 years ago. Confederation data crystals hummed with power, while human computers processed information at speeds that amazed their galactic partners. The combination was producing results that neither species had achieved alone. "Show me the fusion efficiency numbers again," she said to her mixed team of human and alien scientists. Urix, a methane-breathing engineer from the Spiral Arm Coalition, adjusted his translation device. "Dr. Vasquez, the human modifications to our fusion reactors have increased power output by 47%. This should not be possible. We have been perfecting this technology for 8,000 years. Elena smiled as she reviewed the data. "You have been perfecting it according to your understanding of plasma dynamics. We approached it differently. Instead of trying to contain the reaction perfectly, we let it be a little chaotic and used the chaos to extract more energy." The alien engineer's breathing apparatus fluttered with confusion. "But chaos is inefficient. Order creates optimal results. Sometimes, Elena agreed. But sometimes chaos creates opportunities that order misses. Your plasma containers are beautiful, Yerix, but they are designed to prevent every possible instability. Our modifications let small instabilities happen, then use those tiny disruptions to create secondary energy collection points. Across the facility, similar conversations were happening in dozens of laboratories. Human scientists had been given access to galactic technology databases containing millions of years of accumulated knowledge. But instead of simply copying what they found, they were questioning every assumption and finding new ways to combine old ideas. Dr. James Chen looked up from his workstation, where he had been examining Confederation FTL drive components. Elena, you need to see this. We might have figured out something completely new. Elena walked over to find James surrounded by holographic displays showing complex mathematical equations. The FTL equations looked familiar, but there were additional variables that made no sense. What am I looking at? She asked. Standard hyperspace mathematics, James explained. But I started wondering why every species uses the same approach. They all manipulate space-time to create a bubble around their ships. It works, but it requires enormous amounts of energy and complex calculations. And, James grinned, what if we do not create a bubble around the ship? What if we create a kinetic effect instead? Launch the ship like a railgun round through folded space. Elena stared at the equations. That is completely crazy. And it might actually work. Have you run simulations? Preliminary ones. The energy requirements are 60% lower than standard FTL, and the calculations are much simpler. But here is the really interesting part. The faster you go, the more efficient it becomes. Within days, news of the human innovations was spreading through the research community. The Confederation Science Council called an emergency session to discuss what they were calling the human problem. Chancellor Vorthak, a crystalline being who had led the Science Council for 3 centuries, examined the reports with growing alarm. These modifications to our technology should not work, he announced to the assembled delegates. They violate fundamental principles that have guided galactic science for millennia. Dr. Sareth, a representative from the Aquatic Collective, pulsed disagreement through her water tank. With respect, Chancellor, the modifications do work. Our own engineers have confirmed the results. Human fusion reactors are producing 47% more power. Their FTL calculations are showing promising results. That is not the point, Vorthak insisted. They are disrupting established scientific principles. Technology develops along predictable paths. You cannot simply skip stages or combine incompatible systems. A new voice entered the discussion. Perhaps our predictable paths were not as optimal as we thought. The council turned to see Dr. Elena Vasquez entering the chamber, flanked by several human colleagues. She had been invited to explain her team's research, though many council members clearly resented the necessity. Dr. Vasquez, Chancellor Vorthak said stiffly, we need to understand how your people are achieving these impossible results. Elena activated a holographic projector and began her presentation. Honorable council members, I think the problem is not that our results are impossible, but that your scientific community has become too focused on optimization within existing frameworks. Explain, Dr. Sareth requested. Every species we have studied follows similar technological development patterns. You master energy, then use energy-based solutions for most problems. This works, but it creates blind spots. You all developed incredibly sophisticated energy weapons, but you never considered that simple kinetic force might be more effective against energy shields. Murmurs of disagreement rippled through the council. Elena continued. Your FTL drives are masterpieces of space-time manipulation, but they are based on the assumption that you need to create a stable bubble around your ship. Nobody asked if there might be a simpler way to achieve the same result. Chancellor Vorthak's crystalline structure flared with indignation. Are you suggesting that millions of years of galactic scientific development has been fundamentally flawed? Not flawed, Elena replied carefully. Limited. You have all been solving the same problems in similar ways for so long that you stopped looking for different solutions. When we look at your technology, we do not see perfection. We see opportunities for improvement. Dr. Chen stepped forward with another holographic display. For example, your gravity manipulation technology. Beautiful mathematics, incredibly precise control, but you use it primarily for lifting and moving objects. We have been wondering what would happen if you used gravity manipulation as a weapon delivery. System. The council fell silent as the implications sank in. You could accelerate projectiles to incredible speeds without the mechanical stress of railguns, Elena explained. Combine that with our kinetic weapons expertise, and you get something completely new. Over the following months, human research teams working with galactic partners produced innovation after innovation. Hybrid technologies that combined the best features of energy manipulation with kinetic force applications, communication systems that used quantum entanglement principles in ways that reduced power requirements by orders of magnitude, medical equipment that merged human surgical techniques with alien biotechnology to achieve previously impossible healing rates. Each breakthrough challenged established assumptions about how technology should develop. Species that had followed the same scientific traditions for millennia suddenly found themselves questioning everything they thought they knew. But the most significant development was happening in the deepest levels of the Luna Research Facility, where a small team led by Dr. Sarah Kim was working on something that would make all previous innovations seem minor by comparison. Elena, Sarah called from her laboratory, you need to see this. I think we have found something that will change everything. Elena rushed to the lab to find Sarah standing before a device that looked like nothing she had ever seen. It was part alien technology, part human engineering, and part something entirely new. What is it? Elena asked. Sarah smiled. I am not sure yet, but if our calculations are correct, it might be the key to moving things instantly from one place to another. Not FTL travel. True teleportation. Elena stared at the device. That is impossible. Matter transmission technology exists, but true teleportation violates basic physics. That is what I thought too, Sarah replied, until I started combining human intuition with galactic quantum mechanics. The math is crazy, but it might actually work. The galaxy was about to learn that human innovation was just getting started. Dr. Sarah Kim stood before the assembled crowd in the Luna Research Facility's main auditorium, trying to control her excitement. Representatives from every major galactic power had come to witness what she was calling the most important demonstration in human history. Some looked curious, others skeptical, and a few appeared openly hostile. Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted life forms, Sarah began, what you are about to see challenges everything we thought we knew about moving matter through space. Chancellor Vorthak's crystalline form reflected the stage lights as he leaned forward. Dr. Kim, matter transmission technology has existed for thousands of years. While impressive for a young species, this is hardly revolutionary. Sarah smiled. Chancellor, with respect, matter transmission disassembles objects, sends the information, and rebuilds them elsewhere. What we have developed is completely different. She gestured to a device on the stage that looked like a fusion of human and alien technology. Sleek alien components were integrated with crude-looking human additions, creating something that seemed both elegant and primitive. This is our prototype spatial displacement unit. It does not disassemble anything. It moves objects directly through folded spacetime using what we call quantum tunneling amplification. Dr. Erix, the methane-breathing engineer who had been working with the human team, stepped forward. The mathematics alone should make this impossible, he announced to the crowd. Yet our calculations suggest it will work. Sarah placed a simple metal cube on the platform of the device. We will start with something small. The target platform is located on the far side of the moon, approximately 3,000 kilometers away. She activated the device. Energy hummed through alien crystals while human-designed field generators created visible distortions in the air around the cube. The assembled crowd watched in silence as space itself seemed to bend around the small object. Then the cube vanished. Not faded, not disintegrated, not transported in any way the galactic representatives had ever seen. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. Confirmation from the target site, Sarah announced, reading from a display screen. The cube has appeared at the destination. Completely intact, no molecular changes detected. The auditorium erupted in chaos. Delegates from a dozen species began talking at once, their translation devices struggling to keep up with the flood of languages and concepts. Ambassador Zethric, who had first welcomed humanity to the galactic community, raised a tentacle for silence. Dr. Kim, this appears to be standard matter transmission with improved efficiency. No, Ambassador, Sarah replied firmly. Watch this. She placed a second cube on the platform, But this time she activated a holographic recorder that would track every quantum signature of the object during transport. The device hummed to life again. But this time, instead of simply vanishing, the cube seemed to exist in multiple places at once. For a brief moment, quantum echoes of the object appeared to stretch across space before snapping back to a single point at the destination. The object never ceased to exist, Sarah explained as the crowd studied the recording. It was not converted to energy or information. It tunneled through folded space while maintaining physical coherence. This is true teleportation. General Quarks of the Hegemony Empire stood abruptly. What is the range of this device? Sarah exchanged glances with her colleagues. Theoretically unlimited. Distance appears to be irrelevant once you establish the quantum tunnel. What about mass limitations? We have successfully transported objects up to 500 kilograms. Again, mass does not seem to be the limiting factor. The implications hit the assembled delegates like a physical blow. Instantaneous movement of objects across unlimited distances without disassembly meant military applications that rendered most defensive strategies obsolete. Dr. Elena Vasquez joined Sarah on the stage. We have been working on scaling up the technology. Our latest prototype should be able to transport a small spacecraft. Chancellor Vorthak's crystalline structure flared with alarm. You cannot possibly have achieved spaceship-scale teleportation in so short a time. Actually, Elena said, we tested it this morning. The auditorium fell silent. The test vessel breakthrough, a small human courier ship, was successfully teleported from Earth orbit to the Jupiter system. Total transit time, 0 seconds. The silence stretched on as the full implications became clear. Every military doctrine in the galaxy was based on the assumption that ships needed time to travel between locations. Strategies, fortifications, early warning systems, even basic trade route security, all depended on predictable travel times. General Quarks was the first to speak. Show me the combat applications. Sarah hesitated. General, we developed this technology for scientific and civilian purposes. Everything has combat applications, Quarks replied grimly. Better you show us than we discover them ourselves. Elena activated another holographic display. Theoretical military applications include instantaneous troop deployment, surprise attacks that bypass all defenses, and supply lines that cannot be interdicted. A ship could appear anywhere without warning. This changes everything, whispered Dr. Sareth from her water tank. Trade, warfare, exploration. Even basic concepts of territory and borders become meaningless when anyone can appear anywhere instantly. Ambassador Zethric stood, his earlier confidence completely gone. How did you achieve this? Your species barely understands basic energy manipulation. True teleportation should require mastery of at least 15 advanced technologies. Dr. Sarah Kim smiled. That is exactly why we succeeded. We did not know it was supposed to be impossible, so we approached the problem differently. Instead of trying to master every related technology first, we focused on the basic question: how do you move something from point A to point B without crossing the space in between? But Chancellor Vorthak began. The physics work, Elena interrupted. You just have to stop thinking about space as something objects move through and start thinking about it as something you can manipulate directly. Human intuition about kinetic force, combined with your quantum mechanics knowledge, created possibilities neither of our species had imagined alone. Dr. Chen stepped forward with another revelation. We have also been working on defensive applications. If you can teleport objects to any location, you can also teleport incoming attacks away from their targets. This is impossible, General Quarks muttered. No species developed such advanced technology so quickly. Sarah looked out at the crowd of galactic representatives, seeing fear, excitement, and confusion in equal measure. Maybe that is because no species has tried our approach before. You all follow similar development paths, building on each other's research. But humans come from outside that tradition. We see your technology with fresh eyes. What happens now? Ambassador Zethric asked. Elena and Sarah exchanged looks before Elena answered. That depends on the galaxy. This technology exists. We can share it, control it, or watch as others try to duplicate it. But we cannot make it disappear. Chancellor Vorthak's crystalline form dimmed as he processed the implications. The galactic order has been stable for millennia. This technology could destabilize everything. Or it could create new opportunities, Sarah suggested. Instant transportation could revolutionize trade, exploration, and communication. It does not have to be a weapon. General Corks laughed bitterly. Dr. Kim, everything becomes a weapon eventually. The question is who controls it. As the demonstration ended and delegates began filing out, urgent messages were already being sent across the galaxy. Every government, every military force, every research institution would want to understand and acquire this new technology. But in the deeper levels of the Luna facility, Dr. Sarah Kim was already working on something even more revolutionary. True teleportation was just the beginning. She had ideas about manipulating time, folding reality itself, and applications that would make today's demonstration seem simple by comparison. The galaxy was about to learn that human innovation was not slowing down. It was accelerating. The emergency session of the Galactic Confederation Council convened in the ancient chambers of Nexus Prime, the political heart of known space. Representatives from 300 species filled the vast amphitheater, their various breathing apparatus and life support systems creating a symphony of mechanical sounds. The topic of discussion was unprecedented: how to respond to humanity's latest technological breakthrough. Chancellor Vorthak stood at the central podium, his crystalline form dim with worry. Fellow beings, we face a crisis unlike any in our recorded history. A species that joined our community less than 5 years ago has developed technology that renders our most fundamental assumptions about physics and warfare obsolete. The massive displays around the chamber showed footage from recent events across the galaxy. Human ships appearing instantly in the middle of established trade routes. Human research stations materializing in previously unexplored systems. Human diplomatic vessels arriving at negotiations before invitations had even been sent. Ambassador Zethric rose from his delegation's platform. The humans claim their intentions are peaceful, but their technology makes peaceful coexistence impossible. How can we maintain territorial sovereignty when their ships can appear anywhere without warning? General Corks of the Hegemony Empire activated his vocal amplifier. Forget territorial sovereignty. Traditional military defense is now meaningless. Any human force can appear directly inside our most secure facilities. Our entire concept of strategic advantage has been destroyed. Dr. Sareth pulsed concerned colors in her aquatic tank. My people have attempted to reverse engineer the human teleportation technology. Our best scientists report that it should be impossible according to every known law of physics. Yet it works. That is precisely the problem, Chancellor Vorthak replied. Human scientific methodology appears to ignore established principles entirely. They achieve impossible results through approaches that should not work. The debate continued for hours as species after species reported similar problems. The Spiral Arm Coalition had discovered human mining operations that appeared overnight in asteroid fields they had claimed for decades. The Void Watchers found human exploration ships arriving at distant galaxies before their own long-range scouts could complete surveys that had been in progress for centuries. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Sarah Chen stood in the Oval Office reviewing reports from her ambassadors stationed throughout the galaxy. The reaction had been even stronger than anticipated. 3 major powers had declared humanity a galactic threat. 7 species had requested immediate technology sharing agreements. 12 governments had attempted to capture human ships to study their technology. Madam President, her science advisor Dr. Elena Vasquez entered the room with a tablet full of data. We are receiving requests from over 40 species wanting to establish formal research partnerships. But we are also detecting military buildups near human colonies. President Chen studied the galactic map showing human presence throughout known space. In just 2 years, human technology had allowed them to establish outposts and research facilities in locations that would have taken decades to reach using conventional FTL travel. What is our current military status? Admiral Martinez reports that our fleets can now deploy anywhere in the galaxy within minutes. But the Hegemony Empire and the Confederation are both developing countermeasures to our railgun technology. They are learning from their defeats. Elena highlighted several points on the map. The bigger issue is political. Some species are demanding that we share teleportation technology freely. Others want it restricted or banned entirely. A few are threatening war if we do not submit to galactic oversight of our research. President Chen considered the options. Humanity had achieved something unprecedented: technological superiority over the entire galactic community. But with that advantage came unprecedented responsibility and danger. Set up a secure communication link to the Confederation Council, she decided. It is time to address this situation directly. 6 hours later, President Chen's image appeared on the central display of the Galactic Council chamber. The assembled delegates fell silent as she began to speak. "Honorable representatives," she began, "I am addressing you today to discuss humanity's role in the galactic community and our mutual future." Chancellor Vorthak activated his response system. "President Chen, your species has destabilized thousands of years of galactic order. We demand explanations and assurances." "I understand your concerns," Chen replied calmly. "Change is never comfortable, especially change that happens this quickly. But I want to be clear about something. Humanity did not set out to disrupt galactic civilization. We simply approached problems differently than previous species." General Corks leaned forward aggressively. "Your different approach has made our military defenses worthless and our territories impossible to secure." "General, our technology can also make wars unnecessary," Chen countered. "When travel and communication become instantaneous, many conflicts lose their meaning. Why fight over trade routes when goods can be transported anywhere instantly? Why maintain expensive military fleets when defense can be achieved through teleportation shields?" Dr. Sareth pulsed curious patterns. "You are proposing a complete restructuring of galactic society." "I am proposing we adapt to new realities," Chen corrected. "Humanity is willing to share our technological advances, but not under the current galactic framework. The existing system assumes technological development follows predictable patterns, and that older species naturally lead younger ones. Our experience proves those assumptions wrong." The chamber erupted in debate. Some delegates demanded immediate access to human technology. Others insisted on restrictions and oversight. A few called for military action against human expansion. Chancellor Vorthak restored order and addressed Chen directly. "What exactly are you proposing?" "A new compact," Chen replied. "One based on innovation rather than age, cooperation rather than hierarchy, and shared exploration rather than territorial competition. Humanity will establish the Institute for Galactic Innovation, open to all species willing to contribute. Together we will explore technologies and possibilities that none of us could achieve alone." "And if we refuse?" General Corks demanded. Chen's expression remained calm, but her words carried unmistakable weight. "Then you will be left behind. Humanity will continue to innovate and explore, with or without galactic cooperation, but we would prefer to move forward together." Ambassador Zethric stood slowly. "You are holding the galaxy hostage with your technology." "No, Ambassador. We are offering the galaxy a choice. Continue with traditional approaches and accept their limitations, or join us in discovering what becomes possible when you stop assuming there is only one way to solve problems." The debate that followed lasted for days. Emergency sessions, closed-door negotiations, and heated arguments between species that had been allies for millennia. Some governments fell as populations demanded access to human technology. Others declared states of emergency and attempted to isolate themselves from human influence. In the end, pragmatism prevailed over tradition. The benefits of instantaneous transportation, revolutionary energy systems, and breakthrough medical technology were too significant to ignore. One by one, species began requesting membership in humanity's proposed Institute for Galactic Innovation. 3 months later, the first joint human-alien research station materialized in orbit around Nexus Prime. The facility itself was a testament to the new approach. Human innovation had solved the massive construction challenges, while alien expertise provided specialized knowledge no single species possessed. Dr. Sarah Kim stood on the observation deck, watching ships from dozens of species arriving through teleportation portals. Each vessel brought scientists, engineers, and philosophers ready to explore possibilities that had never existed before. "It worked," Elena Vasquez said, joining her at the viewport. "The galaxy is actually embracing change," Sarah smiled. "Most of it, anyway. There are still holdouts. They will come around eventually. When they see what we accomplished together, they will want to be part of it." Below them, the first session of the Galactic Innovation Council was beginning. Representatives from over 100 species gathered to discuss projects that would have been impossible under the old system. Terraforming dead worlds in hours instead of centuries, exploring distant galaxies through instantaneous travel, developing technologies that merge the best insights from hundreds of different scientific traditions. Chancellor Vorthak, who had initially opposed human involvement in galactic affairs, now served as the Council's first director. His opening address was brief but significant. We gather today not as senior and junior species, not as teachers and students, but as partners in discovery. Let us see what becomes possible when we stop limiting ourselves to what has been done before. As the session began, Sarah received a message on her personal communicator. Dr. Chen's research team had made another breakthrough, something about manipulating time itself. The implications were staggering, but Sarah was no longer surprised by impossible achievements. Humanity had taught the galaxy that innovation came from questioning assumptions, not following traditions. And the galaxy was finally ready to learn. Outside the station, space itself shimmered as the first experimental time manipulation device activated. The future was arriving faster than anyone had imagined, and for the first time in galactic history, an entire civilization was ready to embrace it. The age of predictable technological development was over. The age of unlimited possibility had begun. The stars shimmered quietly in the darkness of space as the massive Jarelian warship sliced through the void. Commander Kethzar stood tall on the bridge, his scaled skin reflecting the blue glow of the control panels. His six-fingered hand tapped impatiently on the metal railing as he stared at the holographic display of a small blue planet. "This is our next target," he announced to his officers. "A world called Earth." Science Officer Trelona approached with caution, her slender form dwarfed by the commander's muscular build. She cleared her throat. "Commander, I must advise you to review my reports on this planet. The conditions there are concerning." Kethzar barely glanced at her. "Another one of your warnings, Trelona. The Empire has conquered thousands of worlds. What makes this one special?" Trelna's large eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of frustration in her species. "Earth has what we would classify as extreme conditions: high gravity, powerful atmospheric disturbances, and an alarming variety of microorganisms. The native species, humans, have evolved in what our medical databases consider a death trap." The commander laughed, a harsh sound that made junior officers flinch. "If these humans can survive there, how dangerous could they truly be? Prepare the invasion fleet. Standard protocols, but sir," Trelna began. "That will be all, Science Officer." Kethzar cut her off, turning away dismissively. Trelna retreated, clutching her datapad tightly. The bridge crew avoided her gaze, all knowing better than to question the commander's decisions. The Empire had never failed in conquest after all. On Earth, Dr. Alan Carter squinted at his computer screen, rubbing his tired eyes. The observatory had been his home for the past 72 hours as he tracked an unusual radiation pattern near Jupiter. His office was a mess of coffee cups and half-eaten sandwiches, but he barely noticed. The door opened, and Dr. Linda Rosario walked in. Despite being his ex-wife, she was still his most trusted colleague at NASA. "You look terrible," she said, placing a fresh cup of coffee beside him. Alan took the coffee gratefully. "Thanks. Have you seen these readings? Something's happening near Jupiter. The radiation patterns don't match anything in our databases." Linda leaned over to look at his screen. "Could be a sensor malfunction. The equipment on that satellite is nearly 8 years old." "It's not just one satellite," Alan replied, switching to another screen. "I'm getting similar readings from 3 different arrays. Something's out there, Linda." She frowned, her skepticism fading as she studied the data. "Have you told anyone else?" "Not yet. I wanted to be sure before I set off any alarms." He ran a hand through his messy brown hair. "But if these readings are accurate, we're detecting an energy signature that doesn't occur naturally." Linda straightened up, her expression serious. "You think it's artificial? As in, not from Earth?" Alan nodded slowly. "That's exactly what I think." The next morning, satellite systems around the world began failing. Communications networks crashed, weather predictions went haywire, and air traffic controllers scrambled to maintain contact with planes in flight. At the United Nations building in New York, an emergency session had been called. Representatives from every major nation sat in tense silence as the Secretary General addressed them. Ladies and gentlemen, as you've all been informed, we are experiencing global technological disruptions. NASA and other space agencies have detected unusual energy signatures in our solar system. We must consider the possibility that we are not alone. The room erupted in voices. Fear, disbelief, and urgent questions filled the air. In Washington, D.C., the president sat in the Situation Room, surrounded by military advisors. General Paul Harris pointed to a satellite image on the main screen. "Sir, we've managed to capture this with our Deep Space Telescope. It's currently in orbit around Mars." The image showed a massive object, clearly artificial, with a design unlike anything created by human hands. The president leaned forward. "What are our options?" General Harris looked grim. "Honestly, sir, we have no protocols for this. If they're hostile, our most advanced weapons might not even scratch them. And if they're peaceful, then we hope they stay that way," the general replied. Captain Vreltok of the Jurelian scout ship gazed at the blue planet with mild disgust. His environmental officer had just delivered a report that made his stomach turn. "This cannot be." "Correct," he said. "Check the sensors again." The officer bowed nervously. "I've verified the readings 3 times, sir. The planet's atmosphere contains nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and water vapor. The surface is 71% covered in liquid water. Temperature variations range from extreme cold to extreme heat. And the biological diversity." He shuddered. "There are millions of species, including microscopic life forms that would be lethal to our kind." Vreltok updated his mission log. "Target world appears to have developed sapient life despite extreme hazard conditions. Recommend full immunological protocols for ground forces. The atmospheric composition alone would be toxic to most civilized species without protection." He transmitted the report to the fleet and waited. The response came quickly. "Continue with mission. Invasion proceeds as scheduled." Vreltok stared at the message in disbelief. Did the command not understand what they were facing? This was not a standard world. The very air could kill them. With reluctance, he acknowledged the order and prepared his ship to rejoin the main fleet. On the Imperial command ship, Trelna reviewed Captain Vreltok's report with growing alarm. She hurried to the bridge where Commander Kethazar was overseeing invasion preparations. "Commander, you must see this," she insisted, presenting her datapad. "The scout ship confirms my analysis. Earth's conditions are even more extreme than we initially calculated. The microbiological threats alone—" "Enough," Kethzar interrupted. "Your concerns are noted, science officer. But the Empire has conquered worlds with hostile atmospheres before. Our troops have protective gear. Our ships have sterilization fields. We will adapt, as we always do." Trelna persisted. "Sir, the humans have evolved in these conditions. Their bodies harbor bacteria that could infect our troops. Their immune systems can fight off diseases that would devastate our kind. They survive in a gravity field that will strain our soldiers. This is not like other conquests." The commander turned to her, his patience clearly wearing thin. "Are you suggesting that primitives who have barely reached their own moon could present a threat to the Jurelian Empire? We who have mastered faster than light travel? We who have conquered 1,000 worlds? I am suggesting caution, sir. Study before action." Kethazar's eyes narrowed. "The Imperial Council expects results, not studies. The invasion begins tomorrow, as planned." He addressed the entire bridge crew. "Set course for Earth. Prepare all troops for deployment. Standard conquest protocols." As the massive warships of the Jurelian fleet moved toward Earth, Trelna returned to her station. She had done all she could to warn them. Now she could only watch and wait for the disaster she feared would come. In the darkness of space, the fleet accelerated, weapons primed and troops ready. The Empire had spoken. Earth would fall like all the others before it, or so they thought. The morning sky above Chicago turned dark as massive ships appeared out of nowhere. They hovered silently, casting giant shadows on the city below. People stopped in the streets and looked up. Some took pictures with their phones. Others ran, for cover. Colonel Frank Mitchell was eating breakfast when his phone rang. He answered it with one hand while turning on the TV with the other. The news showed alien ships appearing over major cities around the world. "I'll be there in 15 minutes, he said into the phone before hanging up. His wife Karen watched the TV with wide eyes. "Frank, what's happening?" "I don't know," he said honestly, grabbing his uniform. "But I need to get to base now." At the go. Space Force Command Center, chaos reigned. Officers rushed between stations. Screens showed alien ships positioned over New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, and dozens of other cities. General Adams met Frank at the door. "Mitchell, good. We're coordinating with forces worldwide. The President has authorized defensive measures. If these visitors show hostile intent..." "What do we know about them?" Frank asked. "Nothing except they appeared without warning and they're not responding to any attempts at communication." A young lieutenant ran up to them. "Sir, the ships are opening. Something's being released over the cities." On the screens, green mist poured from the undersides of the alien vessels. It floated down toward the streets, enveloping buildings and people. "Gas attack," Frank said, his stomach turning. "They're hitting civilians first." The general grabbed a phone. "Get the President. Tell him we're under attack." In downtown Chicago, Nurse Kelly Dawson watched through the hospital windows as green mist descended on the city. Emergency alerts blared from her phone, telling everyone to stay inside and seal all windows and doors. Within an hour, the emergency room filled with coughing patients. Many had been caught outside when the mist fell. Kelly and the other medical staff worked frantically, checking symptoms and administering oxygen. Dr. Patel, the head of emergency medicine, called the staff together. "Listen up. The patients are stabilizing. This doesn't appear to be immediately lethal. CDC is reporting similar cases nationwide. They think it might be some kind of biological agent, but not one designed to kill." "Then what's it designed to do?" Kelly asked. Dr. Patel shook his head. "We don't know yet, but blood tests show increased white cell counts. It's like their immune systems are fighting something we can't identify." Kelly checked on a young woman who had been one of the first patients brought in. Her breathing had improved, and her fever was down. "How are you feeling?" Kelly asked. "Better," the woman said, surprised. "Actually, I feel really good. Like I just had a shot of energy." Kelly noted it in the chart and moved to her next patient, who said almost the same thing. By evening, most patients were reporting increased energy and improved breathing. Something strange was happening. On the Jurelian command ship, Commander Kethzar received reports from the fleet. "Phase 1 complete," an officer reported. "Immunological, suppressant deployed over major population centers." "Excellent," Kethzar said. "The suppressant will weaken their immune systems, making them vulnerable to our standard pathogens. Begin Phase 2. Trelna stood nearby, reviewing incoming data. "Commander, something isn't right. Our sensors indicate the humans are not reacting, as expected, to the suppressant." "Explain," Kethzar demanded. "Their immune systems should be shutting down. Instead, they appear to be adapting. Some are even showing increased immune response." The commander waved dismissively. "A temporary reaction. Proceed with ground forces deployment." Trelna wanted to argue, but knew it was useless. Instead, she sent a private message to the medical team to prepare for possible contamination. The Jurelian troops emerged from their landing ships wearing full protective suits. Their armor gleamed in the sunlight as they marched through the streets of Chicago. Their weapons were raised, ready to fire at any resistance. Commander Drelvax led the Chicago invasion force. His orders were clear: secure the city center, establish a command post, and begin processing the local population. "Remember, this atmosphere is toxic," he told his troops through their helmet communicators. "Any breach in your protective gear could be fatal. The gravity here will strain your muscles. Conserve energy when possible." The troops moved forward cautiously, Humans fled before them or hid in buildings. Some military resistance had formed barricades, but their weapons couldn't penetrate the Jurelian armor. 3 hours into the operation, Drelvax received the first troubling report. "Sir, Squad 7 reports their equipment is malfunctioning. Their weapon systems are becoming unresponsive." Before he could respond, another message came in. Squad 3 reporting similar issues. Their movement systems are locking up. Drelvax frowned inside his helmet. "Check for electronic countermeasures. The humans may have deployed EMP weapons." His technical officer ran a scan. "No energy signatures detected, sir, but environmental analysis shows extremely high humidity and organic particles in the air. Microscopic life forms are everywhere, even attaching to our external armor." "Impossible," Drelvax said. "Our suits are designed to repel all biological contaminants." "Sir," the officer replied, "these life forms are unlike any in our database. They appear to be eating through our protective coatings." Back at Space Force Command, Frank Mitchell watched drone footage of the alien troops. "They're having trouble," he said, pointing to aliens who were moving stiffly, or whose weapons seemed to be failing. "What's causing it?" General Adams asked. A scientist from the CDC had joined them. "It might be our environment. Look at their suits. They're completely sealed. They're treating Earth like it's toxic." To them, maybe it is, Frank realized. Our air, our bacteria, our viruses, they've never been exposed to them. Everything on Earth might be dangerous to them. The general leaned forward. "Are you saying we have a natural advantage?" "Possibly," the scientist said. "If their technology can't handle our environment, that gives us an opening." Frank studied the footage more closely. "Their movements are becoming more erratic. If we hit them now while they're struggling..." The general nodded. "Coordinate with ground forces. Let's test how tough these invaders really are." On the command ship, Cathzar was growing frustrated. "What do you mean the ground forces are experiencing equipment failures? Our technology is the most advanced in the galaxy." The communications officer looked nervous. "Multiple squad leaders report the same issues, sir. The planet's environment seems to be affecting our systems. The high moisture content and abundance of microorganisms are degrading external components." Trelna stepped forward. "Commander, I warned about this. Earth's conditions are extreme by our standards, but there's a more serious concern." She showed him a medical report. "Troops who experienced even minor exposure to the atmosphere are showing signs of infection. Unknown pathogens have entered their systems." Cathzar stared at the report in disbelief. "How is this possible? Our biological filters should prevent any contamination." "Earth has millions of microbial species," Trelna explained. "Our filters weren't designed for such diversity. And these microbes evolve rapidly. They're already adapting to our presence." For the first time, uncertainty crossed the commander's face. He had led countless invasions, but never encountered a world where the very environment fought back. "Adjust the strategy," he ordered finally. "All troops to maintain full isolation protocols, no direct contact with anything native to this planet, and prepare cleansing devices. If we can't adapt to their world, we'll make it adapt to us." As night fell over Earth, both sides prepared for what would come next. The Jurelians, with their advanced technology but vulnerable to Earth's natural defenses, and the humans, outmatched in weaponry but with the ultimate home field advantage. A planet that was, to their invaders, a true death trap. 3 weeks had passed since the Jurelian invasion began. They now controlled several major cities, but their victory was not as complete as they had planned. Their troops faced mounting problems as Earth's environment continued to challenge their technology and biology. Dr. Alan Carter hadn't slept more than 4 hours at a time since the aliens arrived. He and a team of international scientists had been given a critical mission: understand the invaders' technology and find weaknesses. The government had provided them with pieces of alien equipment recovered from skirmishes. Alan carefully examined a damaged control panel from an alien weapon. Linda Rosario worked beside him, analyzing data on her computer. "Look at this," Alan said, pointing to a small device inside the panel. "Their systems rely on neural interfaces. They literally connect their minds to their machines." Linda leaned closer. "That's interesting. So they're not just controlling their weapons, they're feeling them, sensing through them. Alan nodded. And these neural systems operate on very specific frequencies. He checked readings on a device next to him. Frequencies that overlap with our wireless communications. Linda's eyes widened. You mean our cell phones' Wi-Fi radio signals, they interfere with their neural tech? Not all of them, Alan clarified, but certain frequencies, yes. I think that's why their equipment failures are worse in urban areas with dense wireless networks. Linda quickly typed notes. If we could boost those specific frequencies, we could basically create neural static for them. Alan finished her thought. Enough to disrupt their systems without affecting our own technology. For the first time in weeks, Alan smiled. We need to get this information to the resistance groups, especially in occupied territories. In Seattle, which had been under alien control for 2 weeks, high school physics teacher Jack Williams led a small group of civilians who had evaded capture. They hid in the basement of an abandoned building, planning their next move. The military is still holding the outskirts, Jack told the group of 20 people, but they can't get into the city center because of the alien stronghold. Mei Chen, a chemistry professor from the local university, raised her hand. I've been studying the protective suits they wear. I noticed something when they were patrolling near my lab. Their armor seems to react badly to certain substances. What kind of substances? Jack asked. Common household chemicals, May explained. I saw one of them brush against a cleaning supply truck. Where the liquid touched, their armor started to degrade almost immediately. Jack thought for a moment. Could we make something that would have the same effect? Something we could use as a weapon? May nodded. With the right ingredients, yes. Normal cleaning supplies might be too diluted, but I could create a concentrated solution that would eat through their armor quickly. That could give us an advantage, Jack said. If we can breach their suits, they'd be exposed to our atmosphere, which we know they can't handle. A young man named Chris spoke up. I work for an internet service provider. If I could access one of our relay stations, I could send encrypted messages to other resistance groups, share what we learn. Jack nodded. That's our plan then. May works on the chemical solution. Chris sets up communications. The rest of us gather supplies and keep watch. We might not be able to drive them out of the city yet, but we can make their occupation a lot more difficult. Linda Rosario had been transferred to a military intelligence unit, tasked with coordinating resistance efforts worldwide. She worked from a secure underground facility, managing information from various groups fighting the aliens. We've received reports from 6 continents, she told her team, all confirming the same patterns. The aliens struggle during weather events, heavy rain, thunderstorms, high winds. Colonel Frank Mitchell nodded. Their sensory systems must be overwhelmed by the electrical activity in our atmosphere. That's useful information. Linda pulled up a global weather map. I've been tracking weather patterns against resistance successes. The correlation is clear. During thunderstorms, resistance groups have a 70% higher success rate against alien patrols. We need to coordinate attacks with weather events, Frank said, especially in regions where monsoon season is approaching. Linda pointed to another report on her screen. We're also seeing successful attacks using environmental factors. A group in Seattle has developed a chemical compound that degrades alien armor. Groups in tropical regions report that the high humidity is causing increased equipment failures among alien forces. Frank leaned back in his chair. They came here thinking they were the predators, but Earth itself is hunting them. On the Jarelian command ship, the situation was becoming dire. The medical bay was filled with sick soldiers, many suffering from unknown diseases that had breached their protective gear. Commander Kethzar stared at the latest casualty reports with growing concern. How many troops lost this week? Trelina consulted her data pad. Over 2,000, sir. But the greater concern is the new infection spreading among the forces. Our medical team has identified it as a mutation of what the humans call the common cold. It appears to have jumped species. How is that possible? Kethzar demanded. Our biology is completely different from theirs. This planet's microorganisms evolve at a remarkable rate, Trelna explained. They've never encountered our kind before, but they're adapting to use us as hosts. And with no natural immunity, Our troops experience much more severe symptoms than humans do. Kethazar paced the bridge. What about the atmospheric cleansing? I ordered all biological material in our controlled zones to be eliminated. An officer spoke up. The cleansing efforts are failing, sir. The microorganisms reproduce faster than we can kill them, and many have developed resistance to our methods already. Kethazar slammed his fist on a console. This world fights back at every turn. Even its smallest life forms defy us. Trelna approached cautiously. Commander, I must formally recommend a strategic withdrawal. We've lost nearly 30% of our ground forces, not to battle, but to this world's natural defenses. If we remain, the casualties will only increase. Withdraw? Kethazar growled. The Empire has never abandoned a conquest. The Council would view it as weakness. The Council is not here, Trelna said firmly. They don't see our troops suffering from diseases our medical technology cannot cure. They don't understand that this planet is unlike any we've encountered before. Kethazar was silent for a long moment. Finally, he turned to his communications officer. Send a message to the Imperial Council. Inform them of our situation. Request reinforcements and specialized equipment for extreme hazard environments. As the officer rushed to obey, Kethazar looked out at the blue planet below. This isn't over, he said quietly. We will adapt our strategy. If we cannot conquer this world through standard means, we will find another way. The Empire does not accept defeat. But even as he spoke, another report came in of equipment failures, sick troops, and successful human resistance attacks. Earth continued to fight back against its invaders, using weapons they had never anticipated. Its own natural systems evolved over billions of years to survive in conditions the Jarelians considered a death trap. 6 months into the occupation, Earth's weather shifted as summer approached in the northern hemisphere. The changing seasons brought new challenges for the alien invaders and new opportunities for human resistance. Colonel Frank Mitchell stood on a hill overlooking what had once been the outskirts of Chicago. The city skyline was changed now, with alien structures rising between human buildings. Frank raised his binoculars and studied the enemy positions. They've reduced their patrols. Again, he noted to the soldiers around him. 3rd time this week. His second-in-command, Captain Lisa Rodriguez, nodded. Their numbers are thinning. That virus is still spreading through their ranks. Frank lowered the binoculars. Operation Thunderstrike is a go. Tell all units to prepare. The storm front will reach the city in approximately 3 hours. Lisa relayed the orders through their secure communication system. Across the region, resistance fighters and military units prepared for coordinated attacks on key alien installations. Frank looked up at the darkening sky. The approaching thunderstorm would provide cover for their assault. The aliens' sensory systems would be overwhelmed by the electrical activity, giving human forces a crucial advantage. You think the Council will ever send them reinforcements? Lisa asked. Frank shook his head. Our intelligence suggests they've been quarantined. The Empire doesn't want whatever diseases their troops have caught here spreading to other worlds. They're on their own, Lisa said with satisfaction. Just like we were. In Seattle, Jack Williams' resistance group had grown from 20 to over 200 members. They had established a hidden base in an old subway tunnel and were preparing for their largest operation yet. Mei Chen had perfected her chemical compound, which they now called armor melt. Dozens of resistance members worked to produce it, in large quantities using materials scavenged from around the city. Jack studied the map of alien positions. Their main power generator is here, he said, pointing to a location near the center of the city. It supplies energy to their entire command center. If we can disable it, their systems will be forced to run on backup power. Chris, who had successfully established communications with other resistance groups, added, and their backup systems are vulnerable to the humidity. They've been having increasing failures as summer temperatures rise. Jack nodded. That's our target then. May, how much armor melt do we have ready? Enough for this operation and more, she replied. We've also created a delivery system, pressurized containers that can spray the compound up to 30 feet. A young woman named Alicia, who had been a weather forecaster before the invasion, joined them. The forecast shows temperatures climbing to 90 degrees tomorrow with humidity at 80%. Those are the worst conditions possible for their equipment. Jack smiled. Then tomorrow is our day. Alert all teams. We move at noon when the heat and humidity are at their peak. Nurse. Kelly Dawson had learned a great deal about alien biology in the months since the invasion began. The hospital where she worked now treated both humans and captured alien soldiers who had fallen ill. Dr. Patel had assembled a special medical team dedicated to studying the new diseases that had emerged, viruses and bacteria that had jumped between species, creating unique hybrid infections. Kelly examined an alien patient, checking the monitors tracking its vital signs. The Jirelian was unconscious, its scaled skin pale and dry. Dr. Patel entered the isolation room wearing protective gear. "How's our patient doing?" "No improvement," Kelly replied. "The fever is still high, and respiratory function is declining, Dr. Ray." Patel checked the latest test results. "This modified cold virus is devastating to their system. Their immune response is completely overwhelmed." Kelly looked at the unconscious alien. "It's strange to think that something so common to us could be so deadly to them." "That's the irony," Dr. Patel said. "They came here with advanced weapons, thinking we were the vulnerable ones. But our bodies have evolved to survive in this environment. We carry millions of microorganisms that are harmless to us, but lethal to them." "Have you shared this data with the military?" Kelly asked. Dr. Patel nodded. "They're working on a delivery system. If they can introduce these microorganisms into the air filtration systems of alien bases." "Biological warfare," Kelly said quietly. "Using our natural defenses against them." "They started this war," Dr. Patel reminded her. "We're just using the weapons Earth gave us." On the Jirelian command ship, Commander Kethzar received the response from the Imperial Council. He read it in silence, then looked up at his officers with a grim expression. "The Council has enacted quarantine protocols," he announced. "No additional forces will be deployed to Earth. We are ordered to complete our mission with available resources or," he paused, "initiate withdrawal." The bridge was silent. The Empire had never before suggested withdrawal as an option. Trelna stepped forward. "Commander, I've completed my latest analysis. Our forces are not just losing. We're endangering the Empire itself. The longer we stay, the more our troops adapt to Earth conditions, the more danger we pose if we return home. These pathogens could devastate our worlds." Kethzar stared at the data. The situation was worse than he had imagined. Nearly half of his ground forces were now infected with Earth-borne diseases. Equipment failures had increased by 200% as summer. Humidity rose in the northern hemisphere. And the humans were growing bolder, launching coordinated attacks that targeted weak points in Jirelian defenses. "We have underestimated this world at every turn," Kethzar admitted. "What we saw as primitive was actually adapted perfectly to conditions we consider extreme. Their technology may be less advanced, but it functions in their environment. Ours does not." He looked out at Earth, the blue planet that had defied Imperial conquest. "Prepare a new strategy. Pull our forces back to secure zones. Establish defensive perimeters. We will hold what territory we can while seeking a resolution to this conflict." An officer looked confused. "Resolution, sir? You mean conquest?" Kethzar shook his head. "I mean survival. The Empire has never encountered a world like this. A death trap that fights back with its very existence. We must adapt our thinking, or face extinction." As storm clouds gathered over Chicago, Frank Mitchell gave the order to begin Operation Thunderstrike. As lightning flashed across the sky, human forces moved toward alien positions, carrying weapons specifically designed to target Jirelian weaknesses. In Seattle, Jack Williams led his team through underground tunnels toward the alien power generator, their backpacks filled with armor melt. In labs across the world, scientists like Alan Carter and Linda Rosario refined their understanding of alien technology, finding new ways to turn Earth itself into a weapon. And in space, Commander Kethazar looked down at the planet that had brought the mighty Jarelian Empire to its knees, not with advanced technology or superior numbers, but with microscopic life forms changing seasons and a hostile environment that humans called home. The tide of war was turning, not because humans were stronger or smarter, but because Earth itself had become their most powerful ally. 1 year had passed since the Jarelian invasion began. The alien forces were in full retreat across the globe. Their numbers had been decimated by disease, equipment failures, and relentless attacks from human resistance fighters. Only their orbital fleet remained largely intact, hovering above Earth like watchful eyes. Commander Kethazar stood on the bridge of his command ship, looking down at the blue planet that had brought the mighty empire to its knees. His once perfect scaled skin was now patched with pale spots, evidence of the earthborne infections that had spread through his body. Many of his officers showed similar signs of illness. "Status report," he ordered, his voice weaker than it had been a year ago. Trelna approached with a datapad. She had been right about everything, though she took no pleasure in it. "Ground forces are down to less than 20% of original numbers, sir. Most of our remaining troops have been evacuated to orbital stations, but many are too sick to be moved." Kethzar nodded slowly. "And the cleansing protocol?" "Failed," Trelna said simply. "We cannot eliminate Earth's microorganisms. They adapt too quickly. Each attempt at sterilization only creates stronger variants." The commander closed his eyes briefly. He had never known defeat in his long career. Yet here it was, delivered not by a superior military force but by microscopic life forms in a hostile environment. "The Imperial Council has reviewed our situation," he said finally. "They have authorized me to seek terms with the humans." A murmur of surprise ran through the bridge crew. The Empire had never negotiated with a species it had attempted to conquer. "Sir?" Trelna looked shocked. "We're going to communicate with them?" "Yes," Kethazar said. "Open a channel to their global communication networks. I wish to address their leaders directly." At the United Nations headquarters in New York, world leaders gathered in the General Assembly Hall. The alien commander had requested this meeting, and after much debate, they had agreed to hear what he had to say. Dr. Alan Carter and Dr. Linda Rosario sat in the observer section, invited because of their work understanding alien technology. Colonel Frank Mitchell was there too, representing the military forces that had fought back against the invasion. The large screen at the front of the hall flickered to life, showing the alien commander. Even those who had never seen a Jarelian before could tell that this one was unwell. "People of Earth," Kethzar began, his translator converting his words to various human languages. "I am Commander Kethzar of the Jarelian Empire. For 1 year our forces have attempted to conquer your world. We have failed." The hall remained silent, everyone too stunned by this admission to react. "We gravely underestimated your world and your species," the commander continued. "What we saw is a death trap you call home. What kills us makes you stronger. The Empire has never encountered a species like yours, evolved in conditions we consider uninhabitable, resistant to pathogens that devastate our kind." He paused, seeming to gather his strength. "I have been authorized to offer terms for our withdrawal. The Empire will classify Earth as a sovereign world that we will never again attempt to conquer. All our forces will depart your system. In return, we ask only safe passage for our remaining troops and ships." The Secretary General stood. "And how can we trust that your empire won't return when you've recovered from your losses?" Kethazar's expression changed in a way that might have been a bitter smile. "Because Earth will be classified as a Class X death world in our navigational databases, the highest hazard rating in our system. No Jarelian commander would ever attempt to invade again, and we will provide you with technology to detect our ships at a distance far greater than your current capabilities, as insurance against any future aggression." After the aliens' address, the UN chamber erupted in debate. Some leaders advocated pursuing the aliens into space, using captured technology to build weapons that could take the fight to the Empire. Others argued for accepting the terms and focusing on rebuilding. Alan stood to address the assembly when given permission to speak. The commander's offer seems genuine. From everything we've learned about their biology, they simply cannot adapt to Earth. Their bodies aren't designed for our environment, just as we would struggle to survive on their worlds. Linda added, their technology is still far beyond ours in many ways, particularly in space travel. If we tried to pursue them, we would be at a severe disadvantage once we left Earth's protective environment. Frank Mitchell offered the military perspective. We've beaten back their ground forces, but their orbital capabilities remain largely intact. Accepting their withdrawal lets us end this conflict on favorable terms without risking further destruction. After hours of discussion, the UN reached a consensus. They would accept the aliens' offer, with additional conditions regarding the return of captured humans and cleanup of alien structures and materials left on Earth. 2 days later, Linda Rosario led a small delegation to meet with Jurelian representatives. The meeting took place in a sealed environment that allowed both species to be comfortable. We accept your terms for withdrawal, Linda said to Trelna, who represented the commander, with the additional conditions outlined in this document. Trelna reviewed the human demands. These are acceptable. We will begin our evacuation immediately. It should be complete within 14 Earth days. Linda studied the alien scientist curiously. You warned them, didn't you, about Earth's dangers? Trelna's large eyes blinked slowly. I tried. Some warnings are not heeded until it is too late. Why did your empire choose our world? Linda asked. There must be easier targets. The empire expands. That is its nature, Trelna replied. But Earth will change things. A world that defeated us will make others question whether the empire is truly invincible. As the last Imperial ships prepared to leave Earth's orbit, Jack Williams took his students to the roof of their school. The alien structures in Seattle were already being dismantled, and soon the city would show no signs of the occupation. Look, up there, Jack said, pointing to the distant lights of departing ships. They came thinking we were weak because we live in what they consider hell. They left understanding something important. Sometimes the most dangerous species are those that evolve in the harshest environments. One student raised her hand. Will they come back? Jack shook his head. No. They've classified Earth as a death trap, the most dangerous world they've ever encountered. He smiled as the ships grew smaller in the night sky. They'll tell stories about us out there among the stars, about the planet where even the air can kill you, where invisible life forms attack from every surface, where storms produce lightning that fries electronic systems. They'll warn other species to stay away from the deadly world called Earth. Another student looked thoughtful. But it's not deadly to us. No, Jack agreed. To us it's home. And that was their biggest mistake. They never understood that what made Earth dangerous to them made us stronger. Every disease we've survived, every environmental challenge we've overcome, they've all prepared us for this moment. As the final alien ship vanished into the darkness, a cheer went up from watchers around the world. Humanity had faced its first contact with an alien empire and emerged not just surviving but victorious. And far away in the depths of space, news of Earth's successful resistance spread through the Empire's subject worlds. For the first time in millennia, the Jurelians faced questions about their supposed invincibility. Other alien civilizations took note of the small blue planet that defeated the undefeatable, some with fear, others with newfound respect, and a few with thoughts of alliance. Earth was no longer an insignificant world on the galactic fringe. It was now known across the stars as the death trap that even the mighty Jurelian Empire couldn't conquer.